Hello and welcome to Grand Prix Minneapolis. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm joined by Jake Van Lunen, and we're watching round 12, where the man currently the king of the hill at the top of the standings is Barry Smith, and you can tell from those lands, he's an Urzatron player.
Oh, yeah. We've been watching him destroy people on the back feature match tables round after round, playing things,
Very nice.
Playing turn 3 Karn, turn 3 Worm Coil Engine, just punishing opponents by playing these big spells. People have slowed down their decks to become more resilient to the disruption, and it's left them wide open to just get blown out by this powerhouse of a deck.
Yeah, so Eye of Ugin is the turn 2 land drop. That means Tron's not going to come online until turn 4 at the earliest. But still, yeah, basic strategy here. Get a power plant, get a mine, get a tower. That's 7 mana between those 3 lands. So Karn is the highlight, right? Karn Liberated is really what you'd love to do on turn 3.
Definitely.
And the way I heard the story, Karn has been dealing damage right and left. Karn has actually dealt millions of damage.
Well, I mean, damage is an interesting way to put it. So
Karn doesn't actually have an ability that deals damage?
In the last round, Brandon Nelson, some of you may know as FF Freak's little brother,
Sure.
well-known Magic Online player, wins PTQs pretty regularly, has played on the Pro Tour a bunch of times. He is... I know he's not actually Brad Nelson's younger brother.
But that's his,
that's his Magic
name.
Online
Magic
name.
Online name.
So anyway, he gained millions of life with Kitchen Finks.
Oh, Kitchen Finks, Malera, Persist combo?
Yeah, just a normal combo. And then Barry just restarted the game with his Karn.
That sounds like millions of damage to me. His opponent was at 2 million, and then he was at 20. That's 2 million damage. Oh, 1,998,000.
He started the game over. I don't know. I think does Shahrazad deal damage? How does that work? I don't know.
Sure, absolutely. You've seen the Infinite Shahrazad deck that kills the opponent? All right, Gregory Orange on the other side of the table is playing blue-white-red control. Sphinx's Revelation, Cryptic Command, you know, a couple of Wrath of God effects. Very essentially the deck McLaren won the Pro Tour with. Very creature light.
We haven't seen a lot of these blue-white-red control decks since the Pro Tour.
I mean, they're here. They're you know, they're among the 5 most played decks. I mean, the big 3 are clearly Pod, Affinity, and Splinter Twin. All right, 2 towers is not really the way Barry wants his mana to develop. But what are you going to do? Expedition map, right, will allow him to go get the 3rd piece of the Tron. He'll be online on turn 5.
And then he'll have access to huge amounts of mana with those 2 towers.
True.
Two towers in the first game. Seems like more of like a second game scenario.
I was trying to find that. Well solved. Now, what does Gregory do about this? How does the matchup play out?
So, generally speaking, like this is a nightmare for Gregory. There's an Eye of Ugin on the other side of the table. You know, that's just going to constantly like search Barry's library for gigantic spells. And Gregory's going to have to run out of cards eventually. He's not going to have enough counter spells to deal with that forever. And eventually Barry's going to resolve a big spell, and then Gregory will probably lose. I mean, with the Eye of Ugin out, it's just extremely difficult for a control player to win. And Eye of Ugin is obviously just a one-of in the deck.
Now, is it just the Eye of Ugin that is bad for the control player here, or is the matchup in general? I mean, certainly I've played the control side of this match from time to time, and having your opponent just have dramatically more mana than you is bad. Forget about Eye of Ugin. Just Urzatron by itself is pretty good against control. I mean, they're trying to, you know, remand or mana leak your stuff, and you just have the ability to cast multiple threats on a turn. It becomes really hard to keep up with it from the counterspell perspective.
cards like Mana Leak are horrible here.
Yeah, I don't know. There are Mana Leaks in Orange's list. All right. Barry looks like he's going to pop the Relic, essentially cycling to draw a card.
All right, so
third tower.
Now that's going to be a lot of mana next turn.
Those are proper Antiquities Urza lands, right?
They are.
The original printing, circa 1994. The second expansion Magic ever had after Arabian Nights. Yeah, and Gregory is just—he's got a bunch of lightning bolts in his hand, in his list, and in his hand here. So Tectonic Edge is a pretty nice weapon for Gregory. He's able to take out the power plant there, which means that despite the expedition map, Barry was not able to get the Tron online there. Tectonic Edge had him busted up, which is why he didn't even bother to go for it there. I think he's waiting till he draws either a second power plant or a mine. That way he can expedition map for the other one.
That makes sense. Now, Barry Smith has supposedly been playing Tron forever.
Yeah, is that right?
That's how he put it to Nate Price. Nate said, "Convince me why people should be playing this deck." Barry said, "Well, I've been playing this deck forever. That's why."
Like literally 20 years,
yeah,
probably.
This is the deck I play.
The deck has existed for right at 20 years. You know, Magic is, it's in its 21st year. I think Antiquities might be right at 20 years old.
And here we
Urza
are.
lands have, of course, been reprinted many times over the years.
But those original ones, right there.
They're clearly prettier.
Yeah, and they have different art.
Making our job even tougher. That's
Yeah.
a power plant, right?
That is a power plant.
So he's back to 2 pieces. And here's a Spellskite.
And Spellskite, I mean, normally it's pretty decent against these types of decks.
Wow.
But
apparently it's going to draw out a Cryptic Command. Why is Spellskite so powerful against Gregory?
Well, I mean, in most cases it would be, but in this matchup, it doesn't really seem great. I mean, most of Gregory's removal, I guess it does save a Wormcoil Engine from Path Exile, which is relevant.
Gregory, I think, was also happy to get to bounce a land there, so he chose counter bounce as the mode on Cryptic Command and put the power plant into Barry's hand, fending off the full Urzatron for at least 2 turns.
Yes, and Barry does have a mine in hand.
Okay,
there.
Makes sense. So 3 mana for Oblivion Stone.
Now, when you're playing Tron, it's actually pretty reasonable to be putting fate counters on things with your Oblivion Stone.
Get a lot of mana left lying around. And Gregory's going for a remand. So how does Gregory win this game? I mean, we've seen that Eye of Ujin. We see Barry has access to all the Tron pieces. It feels like he's got inevitability on his side. Gregory is just got to try to burn him out somehow. I mean, he just Snapcastered back another Lightning Bolt. So Barry is actually, in fact, down to 9, and there's a 2-power attacker. It's going to knock him to 7 this turn.
Yeah, I mean, if Gregory gets aggressive enough, like, he might be able to take this game away. It's just it's a race at this point. It's a race to see whether or not Barry is able to stick, you know, the Wormcoil Engine or the Karn, and he has a Johnny Vengeance. He can deal damage that way.
4 bolts, 2 lightning helixes, and 1 copy of a Johnny Vengeance in Gregory's list as ways to deal direct damage. Plus, of course, Celestial Colonnade can attack, Snapcaster Mage can attack.
Electrolyze can go to the face.
Oh, yeah, 4 Electrolyzes. So he's got the burn-heavy version of this deck, similar to what McLaren won the Pro Tour with. Now, McLaren this weekend elected to put more of a combo finish in his deck. He took out the Lightning Helixes. He put in Restoration Angels and Kiki Jikis, figuring he needs to just win on the spot rather than try to hold control against a combo deck for that many turns.
Sure.
Here's that Snapcaster Mage. Flashing back.
Cryptic Command.
Okay.
Bounce, draw. Gregory attacking Barry's mana base super aggressively. I did not see this game playing out this way. I saw the same thing you did, that initial Eye of Ujin, the full Urzatron, all those towers. But Gregory has stitched together a tempo plan that just might work.
It's looking very strong at this point.
Barry Smith down to 7. He scoops him up. Those Snapcasters are going to knock him to 3, and wow.
That's interesting that he scooped them up. I'm surprised that he had Emrakul in his Emrakul in his hand, so he has he could have just played his power plant.
Sure.
And he takes
4 down to 3.
Yeah. So he goes down to 3 life. Then the next turn he plays the mine, and then he has access to 13 mana plus the Eye of Ujin. So can he just cast the 15/15 and take an extra turn?
It costs 15.
Yeah, but Eye of Ujin reduces casting cost by 2.
The cost by 2. Was there a Celestial Colonnade on Gregory's side of the board?
Oh, maybe that was it.
I mean, if there was a Celestial Colonnade, then the game was over. If there was a Lightning Bolt, then the game was over.
Yeah, there are many cards in Gregory's deck that could have ended the game there. A Johnny Vengeant, another Snapcaster Mage. Would have been good
I
enough.
really like the way Gregory played that game.
Yeah, just when he recognized that his opponent was only on 1 Tron piece after that Cryptic Command each time, he was able to keep him off of Tron.
I mean, Barry had turn 4 Tron, and never, in fact, got to tap a land for more than 1 mana. It's pretty impressive.
It's really impressive.
Tectonic Edge, Cryptic Command, Cryptic Command, Cryptic Command. Fended it off for 4 bounces, and it takes 2 turns to get. Just super impressive. Well, here's a look at the upcoming webcast schedule. We've got lots of Magic coming up for you over the course of the next couple of months. Next week's a big one. We're all going to be in Atlanta, Pro Tour Journey into Knicks. It's block constructed. I think it's the format where the super teams have their biggest edge. We'll see what they come up with. Should definitely be a fun one. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday coverage. Lots of the pros are going to be hanging out in Atlanta. Lots of the coverage staff's going to be hanging out in Atlanta as well, because there's a Grand Prix the following weekend. Will be Theros block sealed, followed by Draft Day 2. After that, it's block constructed in Manchester, with the European team covering that, of course. Followed by a couple standard GPs in June, Moscow and Chicago. And then some more limited, Washington, D.C. at the end of June. And then on the same weekend, we'll have the dueling coverage with GG's Live firing up, and Grand Prix Milan being covered by the European staff.
It's funny because in the beginning we thought that Eye of Ujin was going to be a huge force against Gregory's deck, and it ended up being the reason Barry lost the game, essentially. I mean, if he didn't have that in play as a 4th land, then the Tectonic Edge would not have been live on that specific turn. And then...
Oh, funny. He was going to have some land in play there, though.
Yeah. But if it had been a mine or...
Yeah, well, he had Expedition Map to go get the other piece, and then he drew the other piece. I don't think he played that instead of an Urza piece.
Oh, I'm sure he did not, but...
Backtable's got an interesting match. You can see David Ochoa and Eric Froelich are shuffling up for their Game 2 as well. I wonder if we can get word from the table judge about who won Game 1. Oh, Eric Froelich won. So that's Splinter Twin versus Pod. They've got the 2 different Channel Fireball decks that are running around this weekend. Froelich's on the Twin side of the fight, and Splinter Twin combo got him. Got hit Game 1 for him. Those guys are both 7 or 9-2 at this point. So in it, starting to think about it. I mean, you come into day 2 at 7-2 and feel like there's a long hill to climb, but you win the first one, and then you win the second one. You definitely start thinking it's realistic.
Yeah, winning 4 in a row is not outside of either of those players' wheelhouses.
Yeah, I'm sure they were not happy about that pairing, though. Having to run into a teammate that you know is a good player, that knows your list.
Yeah, especially for David there. I think he probably does not want to be playing against a deck like Splinter Twin. They're a leaner
Yeah, the
version
matchup
of
does
the combo.
favor the Twin side, right?
Yeah. It's not...
Although David, I mean,
out of the blue. It's not out of the ordinary for...
The pod list that David's playing, which is the same list LSV's playing, I assume, his main deck's Thoughtseize.
Yeah.
Like, they've definitely taken their pod list in a direction that is set up for a combo-heavy metagame.
They also have 2 or 3 copies of Abrupt Decay in the main deck.
Yeah. That one's been pretty standard, including the Pro Tour. But yeah, the Sin Collector has moved into the main. 3 Thoughtseizes have moved into the main.
All right. Good luck, Greg.
Then again,
supplementing the Abrupt Decay and giving them answers to that combo.
Eric Froelich has 3 main deck copies of Twisted Image, which is very strong against David Ochoa's deck.
Kills the mana creatures on turn 1, kills Wallow Roots, kills any spell skites. All right, game 2 here. Barry Smith sitting on top of the standings, the reigning king of the hill. I believe there's one other 10-0-1 player. Nobody's 11-0. We've had a couple unintentional draws. There've been an above-average number of unintentional draws, I think. It's just sucking points out of the system. I think last round there were 4 different players on 9-0-1, which is a little bit unusual to see that many draws at the top of the Swiss at this stage. Yeah, the second 10-0-1, the player tied with Barry for first right now is Michael Swales, who we watched win our feature match last round. He's playing Willie Edel right now.
Willie Edel, last year the Latin American or the South American champion.
Oh yeah, and he's in position to go back to Worlds again this year. Nice result here would help. He's also closing in on Platinum. Needs like 1 good result, and he can get the points for Platinum. Hanging out tied with Willie at 10-1 is Sean McLaren. Still only the 1 loss on the weekend for him.
His first Premier level event since the Pro Tour. Comes back, and here he is at 1,600 players in the top 10 of standings.
Yeah, I really see some of the skill in Magic. I mean, 1,600 person, 1,689 I think was our final player number, and yet 7 of our 9 ranked players advanced to day 2.
Attention, please. If your name is Steven Gerdner and you signed up for Drafts 29, please make your way to the side of the stage. Steven Gerdner.
Yeah, what do we have, like 160 players today? It's like 10% of the field, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Top 25 goes 7 for 9. It's like it's a skill game.
It's as if there's skill involved.
Buys help too, but
buys certainly help quite a bit.
All right, Barry leads with Grove of the Burn Willows. That's not an Urza piece. And Chromatic Sphere.
Grove of the Burn Willows is just perfect in a deck like Tron. You know, normally you'd have to pay life to have a land that comes into play untapped, producing both of your colors. Sure. But you know, he's not a deck that really cares about his opponent's life total going up at all.
Right. Yeah. No. So when he does things, they're big, gigantic things. A couple of points of life aren't going to matter. And then the mana helps. Sylvan Scrying being one of the key cards that he wants to be able to cast. That's what the green mana in the deck is for. Pyroclasm is what the red mana is for. Ancient Stirrings is the other green spell he runs main.
So
Defense Grid gets countered by Spell Snare.
Defense Grid would have been a nice one to resolve there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Defense Grid is scary for the counter deck, for the control deck, and Gregory's is very much permission heavy. As permission heavy as we've seen any of the control decks this weekend. Now here's Chromatic Star. Barry's just cycling. Ancient Stirrings gets to resolve, so he'll get to look at the top 5 and keep a colorless card. It's kind of a nice card in this deck. Sometimes you need to fish for an Urza piece. Sometimes you need to fish for an Emrakul or a Sundering Titan or a Wormcoil Engine, some kind of giant artifact creature.
Yeah, looking at the top 5, I mean, that's pretty deep.
Tower is online. Wow, Gregory still has Lightning Bolts in his deck after sideboarding. Probably didn't expect a ton of Urzatron. Yeah, I mean, he's got a couple Wear Tears. Stony Silence coming in this match?
I don't think so.
It doesn't turn off much. I mean, the Chromatic Stars, and turning those off isn't that exciting.
You probably bring Crucible of Worlds.
Sure. So yeah, you definitely
bring
your
Tectonic
Crucible.
Edges.
That's one card, but certainly doesn't have enough to be able to take all the burn out of his deck. So he's still essentially a control deck that just eventually, with Snapcasters and burn cards, can fire off 20. Expedition map will go get a second piece of the Tron, presumably. A mine.
earlier we saw Barry Smith try to resolve Defense Grid. For those of you at home who aren't familiar with that card, it's a bit older. When it's not your turn, your spells cost 3 more to cast, and that's both players. The opponent's turn, spells cost 3 more to cast. So
it's been a sideboard card against counter spells for not quite 20 years, but 18, 17.
Quite a while. It was Weatherlight or something?
Destiny, Urza's Destiny.
Ah, okay. Nice.
Oh, Legacy, my bad. I knew it was Urza block. Urza's Legacy.
Third try's a charm. Thanks for Shad. Help us out.
All right, 2/3 of the Tron online for Barry. Now what?
Well, it looks like Gregory has access to Snapcaster Mage, Bolt You.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean, what else is he going to do? It's weird. This is essentially a tempo game, isn't it? It's just weird to see the blue-white-red control deck playing what amounts to a tempo game where the opponent has inevitability. Hey, Gregor, I think Barry said go, and Greg's trying to decide what to do on his end step. He can fire off an Electrolyze. He can Snapcaster a Lightning Bolt. Think Snapcaster Lightning Bolt is the decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the most damage. It's, 5 damage before Barry gets another turn. It's what you need to be doing in a matchup like this. It's odd when you see the deck that has the big creatures and the big spells.
I know.
Just the deck that has the inevitability against this control strategy.
And I don't even know if Barry has Pyroclasms left in his deck. His Snapcaster's pretty good. Like the 2/1 body seems very relevant here. Barry falls to 9. I was promised giant things.
Yeah,
like we haven't had Urzatron on camera all weekend. We got to see this Urzatron deck.
He's 10-01.
He's playing Karn. He's not losing. Karn's even dealing millions of damage and resetting games. I haven't really gotten to see any of that.
No, we have not. With another bolt in Gregory's hand.
The earth-shattering kaboom.
And Barry's only got 1 or 2 turns left.
I know.
Before he's dead.
Yeah. Yeah, Expedition map. You can have a ton of mana next turn. Maybe.
Cryptic in hand, too, for Greg here.
Is he going to wind up bouncing another land?
It wouldn't surprise me. Right, so do we think he's going to bounce a tower here, or do we think he is going to Electrolyze and Bolt Barry?
I think I would Electrolyze, but what do you do?
I think just Cryptic is like pretty strong. Then there's no way he has Tron the next turn.
Right.
You can always just use the Electrolyze and the Lightning Bolt when they're actually going to kill your opponent. It's not like Barry has any way to gain life besides a Wormcoil Engine that he needs to untap with.
So Barry's still responding to the Cryptic command. In addition to activating... Oh, he was countering the Expedition map? All that was counterbounce. So he counterspelled the Expedition map. I thought we were in the end step. We were actually still in the main phase. Barry, Expedition map had been on the table long enough. I didn't realize it was still in the stack. So Expedition map got countered by the Cryptic command, and Gregory also bounced the Urza's tower. So Barry is able to not activate the Expedition map. He's able to cast Sylvan Scrying to go get another Urza piece. And play his land for the turn.
Standard Steel players, your pairings for round 1 are
now Gregory untaps.
Please see your judge at the banner in the middle of the room, not waving his hands quite yet, but will be shortly.
Yes, so only 2 more turns for Barry here, and will have access to Tron next turn, so we'll have to see what he's able to come up with on that key turn. I wonder, will Gregory go for a main phase Electrolyze to look for a way to interact? I guess he already played his land, so he can't find a tech edge with it.
Snapcaster is going to drop Barry to 7. There's an Electrolyze and a Bolt?
Electrolyze so and a Lightning Bolt.
5 damage.
Mm-hmm. So the next turn.
Right, Gregory is threatening lethal if Snapcaster gets to attack again. But he has to pass the turn back to Barry. He can't deal 7. Now, can Barry get out of this? Zoom. Tron online.
This access to 9 mana now. There's 7.
Down comes Wormcoil Engine. 6/6. Lifelink is the crucial ability. And if Gregory kills it, well, 2/3/3s replace it. Gregory's not particularly interested in killing the Wormcoil Engine. He really wants to just kill Barry. So Electrolyze will deal 2 to the face. If he can draw 1 more burn spell, he's got it. That's a remand. Oh, he responded. Electrolyzes the face and top decks remand off the card draw from the Electrolyze. Points the remand at the Wormcoil Engine, and now Snapcaster plus the Bolt in his hand gets it done. Barry never really got to unleash the Urzatron. Got 1 card remanded, and that was all it took. Gregory deals 2 damage with the Snapcaster, 3 damage with the Lightning Bolt, and there is the hand. Barry can't do more than just shake his head.